There's a provision in the House tax bill where folks are referring this to you that would be a unnamed company, biotech company in Brooklyn Park. What can you tell us about this company and what are you trying to offer them in terms of coming here?
Well, I think the incentives that are the bills speak for themselves in terms of foregone taxes and MIF fund, the Minnesota Investment Fund, which some brilliant commissioner he thought of 30 years ago, and somehow it miraculously stayed in through Republican and Democratic administrations, and I'm glad to see it's still effective as an incentive for our company to come here. It's a very significant company, and I'm not going to give their name because I've been told if we violate that confidence, it will basically end the discussion and their consideration in Minnesota. So I'm not going to voluntarily provide that information, but it is a Fortune 500 company. It'd be a tremendous source of jobs for Minnesota now in the future. It's a good company, and I'm hopeful that it will, this effort will be successful. And, well,
shouldn't the public know who this company is if they're going to be a taxpayer?
Well, again, if I tell you who it is, if I take the company in its word, there won't be a prospect to come to Minnesota anymore. So that's the trade-off. Get into a requirement, under law that I have to disclose it for Commissioner Clark Seaman has to disclose it. Certainly we'll disclose it, but I'm not going to volunteer it.
Why would you wait to be required by law to disclose it? As Tom said, it's taxpayer money.
Because the taxpayers will be spared the money and will lose out on the company and the jobs for disclosing it. I mean, it's pretty obvious to me what the call should be. I respect you have a different perspective.
Anything else? On another note, the House Democrats put forward a tax bill yesterday that includes the alcohol tax. Or you said before you weren't supportive of that. Are you completely rolling it out?
I don't rule anything out finally. Everything is going to be negotiated in the Congress committee, and the Senate will have its differences from my proposals as the House, as their prerogatives. I stand by the bill that I proposed, the tax bill, focus on raising taxes fairly on upper income people, and then stick with the cigarette tax and not going into some of these other areas, sales tax on clothing and other things that I don't support. But again, we have to come to a three-way agreement, and always do, in order to get the bill passed in the House and Senate and signed. So that'll start in a couple of weeks, and we'll give and take on everybody's part.
Governor, within a matter of moments, the Senate is going to take up the issue of pay raises for lawmakers and executives, including yourself. These are always tough issues, especially in a weak economy. What's your position on that?
Well, I understand for citizens, the governor making $120,000 a year, a commissioner making $108,000 a year, and that's a huge amount of money. This is a governor more than double what the average family in Minnesota has an income. The reality is that the governor's out of it. Very talented and highly sought after people like our commissioners, agency heads, can get salaries 50 to 100% larger than that. Local governments across the state, the University of Minnesota, and we had those experiences, and we have people now serving to 50%, in one case about almost 100% salary reduction in order to serve. So fortunately, the people are willing to make that commitment to us, show that dedication, but it's a competitive market as it is in the private sector, and we need to be accommodating with that. I don't seek an additional salary. It's, my successor who may not have my situation certainly should be part of the mix, and I've agreed to go along with that, and I'll donate if it passes any increased salary I get as long as I'm governor of the charity. the legislature, I believe, is terribly underpaid. And I think Minnesotans, are getting a better legislature than they deserve, free of draft, free of any kind of economic wrongdoing. And the salaries at $32,000 plus per diems, and I believe that it's be totally justified for a legislator to get the same salary as your average Minnesota family, which would be about $54,000 a year, and then eliminate some of the per diem substitute for salary kind of things that are forced on it. But I think the Minnesota legislature is $38 billion in state money and close to $70 billion in federal and state money, and our citizens are extraordinarily well served. It's, a part-time legislature is a long ago myth, and it can't be for that level of financial responsibility and all the policy considerations and all the constituent service. And I think we want to make it possible for good people, especially those with families, to serve in the legislature. They should be able to make what an average Minnesota family makes.
Governor, understanding that now is obviously a busy time, have you given any thought to the Open Hearings Exchange Board that their applications closed last week?
The open appointments process just closed at the end of last week, and the group now who are reviewing those applicants, I haven't seen the list, but to narrow it down to a pool that I will then interview personally. And I've met with the group, especially Commissioner Showalter, Commissioner Jessen, and some others, talk about, we want diversity of people on the board. People we each bring people with their own special expertise, and a small board of 7 people, including Commissioner Jessen, so it's going to have to, everyone's going to have a high level of expertise from a different perspective. And I believe in small boards. I think they're more accountable and more efficient, but this one's going to be, I expect, difficult just to narrow it down to 6 people when there are probably at least 6 more who will be equally well qualified. But, we need a strong board. We need a very active board. We need a very talented board to make sure this is a success.
Governor, we're going to have another discussion on e-pull tabs this afternoon. The proposal being to allow e-pull tabs without paper. What do you think about that, and the way that this discussion is going forward?
It's my understanding that the charities propose that separation, and I don't want to reopen the whole stadium bill, and I think it'd be the best outcome would be to work with rather than against any of the affected parties. The memorabilia tax, I was reminded by Michelle Calhoun in her meeting, was part of the original proposal to finance, and literally until the last week, and it was taken out because there was a tax provision, and the Republican majorities imposed any tax increase. So to me, it fits back into the original scheme, and we're calculating how much money it'll make. We continue to believe, based on the experience of those bars and others that are now providing the pull tab experience, and particularly when the link bingo gets online, that these are going to be very successful ventures. There are already bars that are reporting significant increase in sales, and charities that are reporting significant increases in the amount of money they're receiving, and we just need to spread that word and make more and more people aware of both in terms of the provider and the consumer. So it's taking longer than we expected, and it'll continue to be probably more gradual than we would like, but we're going to do everything we possibly can to accelerate the timetable for the development of them, but again, recognizing that the sites that are operating now are meeting the projections in terms of the per set revenues.
So, Governor, you believe that more memorabilia tax could be a reasonable backup, or even an alternative?
I think it should be in addition to. I like to get this settled. That we have, people who consider buying the bonds are going to want absolute assurance that they're going to get repaid. So this is not about trying to parse, right to the fine line. It's about assured sufficiency so that we'll be able to meet those obligations.
Would you need any more, do you think, besides some of the a better promoted or more effective people that are?
Well, that's a good question. That's what the Department of Revenue is now assessing. The member really has got a couple different forms, different rates to the Senate and House, different applicability. So they're crunching those numbers now, and then we'll have to work that in. But again, I want there to be sufficiency, assured sufficiency, so that we can make sure the bondholders are made whole and we can proceed with this project without political posturing or other interruptions.
Have you talked to anyone from the Vikings organization about the memorabilia tax?
I have not, but Michelle Calhoun has. And, they're aware of the realities of the situation. I don't think any of the teams are probably thrilled with this motion, but at least the Vikings recognize the imperative of having a reliable, sufficient funding source.
In answering the question about legislative pay, you mentioned your situation. What is your situation in terms of self-financing another run? You only raised $32,000 so far this year for your re-election campaign?
Well, I think I've used the analogy before. It's a little bit out of season, but it's like asking the Vikings for their playbook. A couple of days before the game. I mean, that's part of our strategy. And I can't raise money during the legislative session from most people, so I don't try. I have two events specifically for lobbyists and the like, and also none of the PACs, law firms, and others can contribute. So it's a very limited potential of people, and also the $500, which I said to the legislative leaders on both sides, I think easily changed, and I told the Republican leaders that the members who are running for governor are going to find out very quickly. It's just, it's, if anything, to a better advantage of an incumbent than a challenger. So I'm hoping that there'll be broad bipartisan recognition of the need to raise that, and that'll make it more feasible that we can have events and ask people to come and contribute. I've sent out my first email asking for contributions, and I'm sure the response is quite equal to $1 million that Paul Wilson pulled in with one of his, but that wasn't his first one. So Paul one day in the Senate floor summed up to me, because we talk about who disliked fundraising the most on the war, and he said, big smile, he said, "I want you to know I raised $1 million this last week." I said, "Oh, did you sign a direct mail letter?" Hey, went right off. So. It'll take a while to get that way.
Governor, the situation in Boston, I understand it's not gun-related, but should there be any implications in terms of the debate over gun regulations here in Minnesota or other security measures as far as you see it?
Well, I think indirectly in that it just underscores the escalating level of violence that's being practiced in our society. And you can't go to an event like that, a civic event, and take your children and not have to worry for your life or your limbs, and the cowardice that's involved, and just the shamelessness of just destroying the lives of innocent people is something I can't comprehend. But I see it having an increase in frequency and with increasing magnitude of destruction capabilities. These are, like you said, we're not firearms, or we're just pressure cookers loaded with the kind of, basically the kind of thing that a suicide bomber was used in the Middle East. So, if there were a way to put a stop to it, I mean, obviously we would do so. But I think the background check legislation they're considering here in Minnesota has broad public support. Surveys have shown that even that if you ask about banning certain weapons, public is at least in the majority not supportive, but then you ask in the next breath the question, do you support universal background checks, and it's overwhelmingly in favor of that. So quite a number of the same people that disagree with the first are supportive of the second. So to me, it's politically advantageous to legislators who support it, and it's like a matter of policy of just trying to save lives. And people say, well, it's not going to be perfect, and people who are going to commit crimes with guns are going to find some way of getting guns. To me, the laws are also about stating our values as a society. You know, we set a law and